They say kids are resilient, that they bounce back, that they heal. But I think that's something adults say to help themselves sleep at night. Because some kids don't bounce. Some kids fall and stay fallen, learning to walk on broken legs just to keep up the illusion that everything's fine. I was one of those kids. My dad died when I was 8. Car accident. Instant. People said things like, at least he didn't suffer, as if that made it better. As if having your world implode overnight feels less like a bomb when it's silent. After that, it was just me and Mom. At first, she was okay, numb like someone watching their life through a fogged up window, but she still made me lunch, still kissed my forehead at night, still looked like my mom, even if her eyes stopped sparkling. Then he showed up. Dean. He wasn't my stepdad, not officially, but he moved in after 6 months, and everything changed. At first, it was the small things. He didn't like noise, didn't like questions, didn't like when I looked at him too long. Then it became rules. Don't leave the light on. Don't sit on his couch. Don't eat the last slice. Don't breathe too loud. Mom started changing too. Her voice got smaller. Her hands always trembled. She laughed less, smiled less, hugged less. And me? I learned silence. I learned to make myself invisible, to close cabinet doors quietly, to never ask for seconds, to flinch before the blow even came. Not that it always came, not in bruises you could see, but the words, the cold, the waiting. It hurt just the same. At school, I was the quiet kid, the one who never raised his hand, who always said, I forgot instead of, I didn't have time, the one who stared out the window instead of at the board. I thought I was doing a good job hiding it. Then came Ms. Carter. She was new. Took over our class halfway through the year when Mr. Abrams had his surgery. Young, kind, always smelled like lavender. She smiled at everyone, but looked at you like she actually saw you. That was dangerous, because I didn't want to be seen. It started with a note, a yellow sticky tab on my desk after class. You okay? I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was to lie. Say yes. Smile and nod like always, but something in her eyes made me pause. So I wrote, I'm just tired. She nodded when she read it, didn't push, but she watched me more after that. She noticed the way I jumped when someone dropped a book, the way I tensed when someone raised their voice, the way I always wore long sleeves, even when it was warm. One day she asked if I wanted to stay after school to help her reorganize the classroom library. I said yes, not because I wanted to, but because it was easier than going home. We didn't talk much. She let me alphabetize the books while she sorted markers and wiped down desks. But when I knocked over a stack of paperbacks and whispered, sorry, before she even looked up, she said something that stuck with me. You don't have to apologize for accidents. That night, Dean yelled at Mom for burning the toast, threw the whole loaf in the trash. She cried in the bathroom after. I sat in my room and imagined I was still in the library, with the smell of old books and lemon cleaner and no shouting. The next day, Miss Carter asked if I wanted to have lunch in the classroom. I said yes. And slowly, things started to shift. She never asked too much, never pushed, just offered quiet space, a smile, a kind word. But one day she slipped up. She asked, does someone at home hurt you? I froze. She tried to cover it, said I didn't have to answer, that it was okay. But I had already shut down. The wall went up. The silence returned. After that, I avoided her, ate lunch outside, stopped making eye contact. I was afraid she would ask again, afraid I'd say yes, afraid of what would happen next. But Miss Carter didn't give up. She started writing notes, not questions, just things like, you matter, I'm here, you're strong. I kept them in my backpack like secrets. Then, one day, Dean found them. He was looking for change in my bag, pulled them out, read them. He didn't say anything right away. But that night, I heard him talking to Mom in the kitchen, his voice low, dangerous. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw her eyes the next morning. They were bruised. That's when I realized something I hadn't let myself believe. It wasn't just me. It was the eyes. That's how I knew. It wasn't the bruises or the flinches or the way he sat on the edge of every chair like he might need to run. It was the way his eyes never settled, like he was constantly watching something behind him. I've taught for 7 years now, and in that time, I've learned that kids don't always say what's wrong, but they show it in the way they eat, the way they draw, the way they stop drawing, and in how often they say, "It's fine." No child should have to live inside that kind of silence. I didn't push Nathan after that day, not directly. He pulled away after I asked him if someone at home was hurting him. I knew I had scared him. I had gone too fast, so I slowed down. I started documenting things, quietly. A record of missed homework, visible changes in mood, the long sleeves on hot days, the way he startled at loud noises. I kept it all in a locked folder in my drawer. Not because I didn't trust anyone, but because I knew I needed more than gut instinct. School protocol is clear, but navigating it is like wading through wet cement. You have to be careful, precise, especially when the evidence is invisible. One morning, I saw him arrive with the same shirt 3 days in a row. His collar was stretched, and he walked with a slight limp. I wrote it down. Then, during free writing time, he turned in a story about a shadow man who lived in a cold house and made people disappear when they spoke too loud. That was the moment. I submitted my report that afternoon. The counselor thanked me, promised to follow up, told me to keep doing what I was doing, that these things take time. Time. Tell that to a child who's afraid to go home. The next day, Nathan didn't come to school. Neither did the day after. I didn't have his home number. Not that it mattered. Protocol said I couldn't contact guardians directly, but I still stood by the front office, pretending to check my mail just in case he walked in. On the third day, he returned, but something had shifted. His eyes were duller, his movements tighter. He didn't speak at all, not to me, not to anyone. At lunch, I asked if he wanted to eat in the classroom again. He nodded. We sat in silence for a while. He picked at his sandwich. I graded spelling tests. The only sound was the ticking of the wall clock. Then he whispered, "It was my fault." I looked up. What was? He didn't answer, but I already knew. You know it's not your fault, right? His eyes stayed on the desk. They don't get to hurt you. No one does. You didn't do anything wrong. He blinked, slowly, like he wanted to believe me, but couldn't quite reach the part of himself that did. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I went to the school social worker, asked for an update. She said Child Protective Services had been notified, that a case had been opened, that a visit was pending. Nathan came to school the next few days like a ghost. He was there, but only barely. He didn't laugh, he didn't play, he just existed. I wanted to grab the world and shake it, do something. Now, but the system doesn't work that way. Then came the Friday that changed everything. It started like any other. Spelling quiz, recess, math review. The bell rang for lunch. I stayed behind to set up a reading corner. Then I heard the thud and the scream. It came from the hallway. I rushed out to find Nathan crumpled on the ground, clutching his arm, eyes wide with something worse than pain. Panic. Another teacher had already radioed for the nurse. I knelt beside him. What happened? He didn't speak, but his sleeve had ridden up just enough for me to see it. A bruise, dark, circular, fresh, and more. Faint lines, like belt marks, old and new. He noticed me looking and yanked the sleeve down. Tears welled in his eyes, but he said nothing. He didn't have to. I stood up, calmly, but inside I was shaking. By the time the nurse arrived, I had already decided I was done waiting. I called the principal, pulled up every note, every detail, every documented incident. "We can't delay," I said. "This is no longer suspicion. It's evidence." To his credit, he listened. By that evening, CPS had made the call. They would conduct a home visit that weekend. If what we suspected was confirmed, they'd remove him. It wasn't fast enough. It never is. But it was something. That weekend, I waited by the phone even though no one was going to call me. And on Monday morning, when I saw Nathan walk in with a different shirt and a small smile, I let myself breathe for the first time in weeks. When Nathan walked into the classroom that Monday morning with a clean shirt and a small, hesitant smile, I almost cried. Not because everything was suddenly okay, but because for the first time in weeks, there was a sliver of light. He didn't say much. He didn't have to. He sat in his usual seat, pulled out his pencil, and waited for the morning bell. But his shoulders weren't as tense. His eyes didn't dart to every corner. He was still quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet. That day, he turned in his homework. Sloppy, rushed, a few spelling mistakes, but it was there. Later, I found a note tucked in the folds of the paper. "Thank you for not giving up." I had to take a deep breath before moving on to the next student's paper. Later that week, I was pulled into the principal's office for an update. The CPS visit had confirmed our suspicions. The report described visible signs of emotional neglect, consistent behavioral indicators of abuse, and confirmation of risk by household observation. Nathan had been removed from the home. For now, he was staying with a foster family just outside of town. Quiet couple, no other children, background checked and approved. Temporary placement, but stable. I nodded through the entire meeting. Only when I got back to my classroom did I let myself cry. Not out of sadness, out of relief and fear, because I knew this wasn't over. The body heals long before the heart does. Nathan didn't miss a single day the following week. He was still soft-spoken, but he made eye contact more often. He raised his hand once, just to ask to sharpen his pencil, but still, he sat with a group at lunch, listened more than he spoke, but he was present. I started seeing little drawings in the margins of his worksheets again. Birds, clouds, tiny rocket ships, life trying to peek through the cracks. Then came the field trip. It was a simple trip, just a half-day visit to the planetarium. But when I passed out permission slips, Nathan hesitated. After class, he stayed behind. "I can't go," he mumbled, staring at his shoes. "Why not?" "My foster mom works that day. She can't come. I don't want to go alone." My heart tugged. "You won't be alone. I'll be there." He hesitated, but not with me. I crouched next to his desk. "Nathan, if you want to go, I will be right next to you the entire time." I promise. He looked up. His eyes searched mine. I let him see that I meant it. "Okay," he whispered. At the planetarium, Nathan clung to my side, not obviously. He didn't hold my hand, but his steps matched mine. His eyes followed where I looked. He laughed once, soft, almost like he didn't mean to. When we sat under the dome and the stars began to swirl above us, I saw his face tilt up, mouth slightly open. Wonder. That's what it looked like. Pure, unfiltered wonder. It broke something in me. Later that week, I got a call from his caseworker. She said Nathan had asked to speak with her privately, and during that conversation, for the first time, he talked. Not everything, not in detail, but he confirmed what we'd all suspected, that he was hurt, that his mom didn't stop it, that he thought it was his fault, and most of all, that he had been scared to tell me. He said, the caseworker continued, that if he told you, he thought you might disappear, like everyone else. I didn't realize I was crying until the tears hit my hand. Healing isn't linear. That became painfully clear over the next few weeks. Nathan would laugh one day and refuse to speak the next. He had nightmares. Sometimes he'd flinch when someone tapped him on the shoulder. He once crumpled a math test because he thought he got a question wrong and would get in trouble. But we kept going. I kept offering a steady presence. He kept trying to trust it. One afternoon after school, he asked if I'd walk him to the bus. We stood at the curb, waiting. It was quiet. Then he said, "Do you think people can change?" I looked down. "Yes, I do. Even people who did bad stuff?" I nodded. "Especially them." He didn't say anything else, but as he climbed the bus steps, he turned and smiled. It was small, Crooked. Real. Weeks turned into months. The end of the school year came faster than expected. Report cards, field day, goodbye letters. Nathan handed me a card on the last day. Inside, in shaky handwriting, it read, "I didn't think grown-ups could be safe, but you were. Thank you for being the first one." I held on to that card like it was made of gold, because maybe I couldn't fix everything. Maybe I couldn't erase what had happened, but I was part of the after, and sometimes that's enough. By the time spring rolled around, Nathan was no longer just the quiet kid with haunted eyes. He was still quiet, soft-spoken, gentle, but there was laughter now. Real laughter. He raised his hand in class without flinching. He sat with friends at lunch. He started drawing again, not just doodles in the margins, but whole pages filled with birds, stars, planets, and names written in the corners. His own name, written over and over again, as if he was still learning it. His foster parents came to the parent-teacher conference that April. James and Alina, mid-40s, kind eyes, warm smiles. They listened when I spoke. They asked thoughtful questions. They showed me a picture he had drawn at home, Nathan in a house, stick figures holding hands. "He told us," Alina said, "that he wants to stay." I nodded. My throat tightened. "He deserves that. More than anything," James added. The following week, Nathan stayed after class. He looked nervous, not scared, just uncertain. His fingers played with the zipper on his backpack, up and down, again and again. "I wanted to ask you something," he said. "Anything. If I go live with them forever, will I still be allowed to see you?" The question hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for. "I mean," he said quickly, "not every day. I know that's not how it works, but sometimes?" I smiled, swallowing hard. "Nathan, I would be honored." His shoulders relaxed. A small smile tugged at his lips. "Okay." 2 weeks later, it was official. Permanent guardianship was granted. Nathan was placed in a home with 2 people who loved him, who chose him, who made space for all the pieces he still hadn't figured out how to carry. We didn't make a big deal about it at school. No announcements, no fuss. But I noticed the change. He started humming when he worked. He told jokes. He volunteered to read aloud. There was a lightness in him now, like something had finally been lifted. Still, I knew the goodbye was coming. On the last day of school, I stayed late to clean the classroom. Desks pushed to the corners, the bulletin board stripped bare. The hum of summer buzzed through the open windows. I heard a knock. Nathan stood at the door, backpack on, holding a small paper bag. "Hey," I said. "Hey," he replied. He stepped inside, looked around like he was memorizing the room. "I wanted to give you something." He handed me the bag. Inside was a small journal. The cover was blue with gold stars. "I thought maybe you could write down all the kids like me, so you don't forget." I smiled. "I'll never forget you, Nathan." He shrugged. "Just in case." We stood in silence for a moment. Then he said, "You were the first person who looked at me and didn't see a problem." I blinked, my eyes stinging. "You were never a problem. You were just a boy who needed someone to stay." He looked down. "Thank you for staying." I crouched to meet his eyes. "You're brave, Nathan. Brave and good, and I'm so proud of you." "I'm proud of me, too," he whispered. And for the first time, I saw it, his full smile. No hesitation, no fear, just light. That summer, I wrote in the journal he gave me, not just about Nathan, but about all the others, the quiet ones, the angry ones, the ones who acted out, the ones who shut down. I wrote what they taught me, what I wished I had said, what I hope they carry with them. On the first page I wrote, "Some children survive war zones in their own homes, and sometimes survival looks like a math test turned in on time, a sleeve pushed up, a smile offered freely, a goodbye whispered like a prayer." I saw Nathan again the following year. He didn't go to our school anymore, but one afternoon, I was walking through the park near my apartment when I heard someone shout my name. Miss Carter. I turned. There he was, taller, his hair longer, a dog on a leash, and dirt on his jeans. He ran up to me, grinning. You look good, I said. So do you, he said. Guess what? I'm writing a book. A book? Yeah, about a boy who talks to the moon. It listens better than people. I laughed. Sounds like a great story. It's kind of about me, he said. I figured. He looked at me for a long moment. Do you still write in the journal? Every week. Good, he said. That way, you'll remember what brave looks like. Then he waved and walked off, his dog pulling him toward the trees, and I stood there, watching him disappear into sunlight and leaves, my heart full. Because he was right, that's what brave looks like.